I'm taking just my parents in the car and going home. Emily, you're gonna walk back.
What? Just me? Why?
No particular reason. Even if there was, I don't need to tell you. A wife is her husband's property, so you should just nod and be quiet. Kai, who had come to pick us up at the station, suddenly whispered this in my ear. Today, I returned from a trip with my in-laws, who were already in the car, so they didn't hear what he said. There were people around us coming from the station, and some women who seemed to be waiting for someone, but none of them appeared to hear either. All right, we're leaving now. And don't you dare snitch to my parents. Not that you could do anything anyway. You always do as I say. It should take you about 3 hours to walk home, so good luck with that. Kai seemed to find joy in tormenting me, heading to the car with a smug look. But immediately, I laughed confidently and said, "What are you talking about, Kai? It won't take me 3 hours. I moved to a nearby high-rise, so it's just a 5-minute walk." Kai furrowed his brow deeply. He seemed confused not only by my statement about moving to a high-rise, but also by my newfound assertiveness. I wasn't going to be his puppet anymore. I had prepared for this. I knew everything. And I was about to make him realize that. After 3 years of marriage, I had never once stood up to Kai. This was the first time I'd ever spoken back strongly. Maybe that's why Kai quietly lost his temper. We need to get the car out quickly, so stop joking around. Listen up, I'll say it again. You're gonna shut up and walk home for 3 hours. Don't make me repeat myself. Seeing that Kai and I were taking a while to get back to the car, my in-laws got out, looking concerned. What's going on? Is something wrong? At that moment, Kai changed his expression as if nothing had happened. Oh, it's nothing. Emily just started saying some weird stuff.
Weird stuff?
She's joking about moving to a high-rise and going home there. My in-laws looked puzzled at Kai's words. I calmly said to them,
"What Kai said isn't a joke. I'm happily going to our new home in the high-rise now."
I smiled broadly, and Kai's expression alternated between confusion and anger. Incidentally, I had always played the obedient wife in front of my in-laws. Kai also treated me well in front of them. So I had never defied him in their presence. Seeing this new side of me seemed to confuse my in-laws even more. What's this? A rare marital spat? We're attracting attention here, so let's just get in the car for now. My father-in-law said, frowning. My mother-in-law looked worried from behind him. I hesitated to say it in front of my in-laws, but I revealed a truth they didn't know. I'm sorry, but Kai and I aren't married anymore.
What? What do you mean you're not married anymore?
Kai is panicking beside his in-laws, who are standing there with their mouths open.
Emily, stop with the ridiculous jokes. We're not divorced.
Whether he remembers what he did in the past or not, Kai tried to cover my mouth with his hand. I pushed his hand away and continued. I'm sorry for keeping it hidden. The truth is, for the past 6 months, Kai has been verbally abusing me. I couldn't take it anymore. My in-laws tilted their heads again. Given that it's normally impossible to get a divorce on my own accord, it's no wonder they looked confused. Kai would always say things like, a wife is her husband's property, and you're a worthless person who can't survive without me. He ignored me whenever I tried to talk to him. Even thinking about it now, the treatment was cruel and unfair. He was the one who wanted me to be a stay-at-home wife. The first few months of our marriage were smooth. But after about 6 months, Kai's attitude towards me changed drastically. That led to the verbal abuse he just threw at me. Thinking I couldn't just live off him forever, I started working from home, but Kai harshly told me, if you've got time to make such petty money, you should be doing the housework perfectly. I won't tolerate you slacking off. On top of that, he threatened me with a signed divorce paper, saying, if you have any complaints, you can file for divorce anytime. I initially planned to announce the divorce after the trip, but just saying let's get divorced wouldn't have satisfied me. So, I prepared until today to make Kai pay for his actions. Every day, I was treated like less than a person, and I couldn't take it anymore, so I filed the divorce papers before the trip. That's why we're not married anymore. But my in-laws still couldn't believe what I was saying. Kai had been excellent and good-natured since he was a child, or so they said.
Kai, is this true? Were you really mistreating Emily?
I'd never do such a thing, Kai said, desperately trying to look his parents straight in the eye. But then he glared at me with intense anger.
Don't say anything more unnecessary.
That's what his eyes were telling me. Before, I would have apologized at this point. But I wasn't backing down anymore. I had solid evidence. My father-in-law asked me again.
By the way, Emily, did you really buy an apartment?
Yes, I did. Would you like to see the proof? I smiled as I took out some documents from my bag, showing that I had moved into a nearby high-rise.
Wait, you really bought a high-rise apartment? And it's really nearby. This area's property is expensive.
The three of them couldn't hide their surprise that I, a stay-at-home wife, actually bought an apartment. As my in-laws stared at me with wide eyes, Kai started laughing.
Dad, Mom, what are you falling for? There's no way Emily, who makes less than a part-time income from her remote work, could live in such a high-end high-rise. Those documents must be fake.
Seeing Kai laughing and pointing at me made me a little angry, but I decided to hit him with the next blow. This would be the last time he called me worthless or his property.
Kai, you said my income is less than a part-time job, right?
Well, it's true, isn't it?
How much can you make from working at home? Tada! Here's my most recent pay stub. What? What's this amount? $80,000 take home.
Your income is about $60,000, right, Kai? Actually, I started this work-from-home job a year ago. I met someone and started a business. Nowadays, there are convenient tools, and it's easy to recruit colleagues online. I had registered on a job site to find something I could do from home, and that person contacted me after reading my profile and messages. The business they started was mainly remote, but it quickly took off, and within 6 months, I was earning more than the average office worker. Gradually increasing my work hours and income brought me to where I am now.
Emily, when did this happen?
My in-laws were amazed that I, who had only a high school diploma and no work experience, was making such a large sum. Meanwhile, Kai, whose pride had just been shattered, showed his frustration all over his face. And then made a ridiculous accusation. What the hell? That money. Oh, I get it. It's one of those online clubs, right? They became popular after the pandemic. You must be getting creepy old men to pay you. A high school graduate like you couldn't do anything serious. I was getting mad again at this petty jealousy, wondering if he was out of his mind, but I calmly responded.
So, you're saying I was cheating? Well, starting a business is something only men can do. What era are you living in? That remark and your past mistreatment. It's not unusual for women to be CEOs now, you know?
Kai's face turned bright red as I continued to argue back. Still unfazed, I pressed on.
By the way, this is my business partner, also known as the CEO.
I searched for a photo on my phone and showed it to the three of them.
What this is? Isn't this Mia Kingston, the famous CEO who's been on TV lately?
Yes, I had started the business with the famous charismatic CEO, Mia Kingston. She had worked at a foreign company but decided to use her skills to start a new company. She chose me as one of her team members. Actually, I studied industrial technology. I couldn't afford college, but I studied seriously and have many qualifications. Mia, with her vast network, was looking for someone to handle the media for her new company, which was foreign-affiliated. My qualifications in computer science and design, and the fact that I was home all day, made me a good fit for the job.
So, you weren't cheating after all?
My in-laws seemed relieved to know there was no possibility of infidelity.
Emily, you've done well. Oh,
What's wrong, Kai? While my in-laws praised me, Kai was sweating nervously. Not knowing the reason, my in-laws stared at Kai intently for a while. Seeing my calm expression, my mother-in-law asked,
Emily, do you know why Kai's reacting like this?
After a brief pause, I slowly opened my mouth. Yes. Kai was having an affair with Mia. Hearing me suddenly mention Kai's affair, and that it was with Mia, the famous charismatic CEO, threw my in-laws into a panic and confusion.
Kai, what's going on?
My mother-in-law demanded, seeking clarification. Kai hurriedly responded.
I have no idea who she's talking about. I never cheated, and I don't know any CEO.
Sure, Kai, keep denying it. I sighed and went to the car to fetch something. Would you listen to this, please? When they saw what I was holding, all three of them were trembling.
Is that? Were you bugging the car? But why would something like that be in the car?
What I brought from the car was a small bugging device. Normally, Kai drives this car, but I had borrowed it once for a distant trip. I found a receipt from a high-end restaurant inside, and noticed a perfume scent I'd never smelled before. Both the restaurant and the perfume were things Kai hadn't shown any interest in since we got married, so I secretly installed a bugging device. With my in-laws confused, I quietly pressed the play button.
Mia, I'm so lucky to have met a cool woman like you. I feel the same way, Kai. Please make me your slave, husband. Oh, Kai, you're so funny.
The recording captured Kai and Mia's scandalous conversation perfectly. Kai still wouldn't admit the affair and started making up an obvious lie, claiming, some other couple must have snuck in when I forgot to lock the car. However, both Kai's and Mia's voices were too distinct. There was no mistaking it was them on the recording. As I mentioned earlier, after the first 6 months of marriage, Kai started calling me worthless and property. Right before our wedding, a friend had given me this advice. If he starts saying belittling things, you should suspect he's seeing someone else. She had divorced her ex-husband because of his affair. When Kai began treating me harshly, that advice came to mind. I thought, no way this could happen to me, but after hiring a private investigator and monitoring him, it turned out to be true. Daily verbal abuse and now an affair. Filled with frustration and anger, I decided to approach Mia for revenge. As I was thinking about how to approach her, I stumbled upon her social media and discovered she was starting her own company. Her profile had a link to the job site she was using. I thoroughly researched Mia's background, network, and career history, then sent a message applying to her company. It worked, and we connected easily. That's how we started the business together and got to where we are today. In other words, while I was earning a lot of money, I was also monitoring the affair up close. I could have confronted Kai with the evidence as soon as I had the recordings, but that wouldn't have been enough to satisfy my anger for being deceived for over a year. So, I intentionally let him continue, waiting for the perfect moment to bring him down. Thanks to the long investigation by the private detective, I had gathered more than enough evidence. After explaining why I approached Mia, Kai started trembling again.
Kai, what on earth were you thinking, having an affair with the CEO?
My mother-in-law said, glaring at Kai with wide eyes. If Kai had admitted to the affair and apologized here, maybe his guilt would have been somewhat lessened. But instead, he became defiant.
This is all fabricated. There's no proof that I mistreated Emily.
Well, I suppose anyone would say that. I had anticipated Kai would never admit his actions, no matter what. So, I played my next card. Kai, do you know where we went on our trip?
No, I don't. Why does that matter?
I took a guidebook out of my bag. When Kai saw it, his face turned pale.
California? Don't tell me.
Kai seemed to realize why I chose California as the destination and started trembling even more.
Well, it's probably what you think. Yes, I went to meet Mia under the pretext of a work gathering.
By the way, another reason we went to California was because my in-laws had always wanted to visit. We spent some time together in California, but I told them a friend wanted to meet me urgently and then met up with Mia. I'm sorry for lying, Dad and Mom. Oh, by the way, Mia knows I'm Kai's wife. I've told her everything he's done to me. Kai knew Mia lived in California. And now, realizing I was truly in contact with her, he seemed at a loss for words. But my revenge wasn't over yet. At that moment, my phone rang. Yes, hello? Sure, I'll be waiting in the north parking lot. After hanging up, I told the three of them, someone's coming to meet us here. Please wait a moment. 5 minutes later, the person arrived. Mia Kingston? Actually, I had secretly arranged for Mia to come here. When Kai picked me up at the station, there were people around us coming off the train or waiting to meet someone. That woman waiting was Mia. Kai was so focused on insulting me that he didn't notice her. Truly a foolish man. Seeing Mia's expression, Kai let out a strange noise. Mia approached Kai with a sharp look. And suddenly grabbed his shirt, shouting, Kai! How dare you deceive me? In contrast to her smart business image, Mia now had a furious, demonic look on her face. Kai recoiled again, shouting, You kept telling me you were single. You said you'd marry me, that we'd have a grand wedding, so I worked myself to the bone for you. Is there more? My in-laws were already exasperated. You hid my existence and even proposed to Mia. Submitting the divorce papers was the right move. Now, Mia and my in-laws surrounded Kai. Suddenly, my mother-in-law grabbed Kai by the collar and slapped him hard. With a loud smack, Kai collapsed on the spot. How rotten are you? Deceiving not just Emily but Mia too? You're such a fool. Where did we go wrong raising you? While his parents lamented, Kai kept looking down. Ever since our wedding, my in-laws had treated me like a daughter. Despite my lack of parents and my inexperience in the outside world, they never showed any displeasure, always saying, Ask us anything you don't understand. At first, I felt nothing but guilt, but over time, spending time with them for tea and outings when Kai wasn't around, we grew close. After 3 months, we had a relationship that felt truly like family. I was determined to repay the kindness my in-laws had shown me. One reason I started working from home was for that purpose. This trip was also part of my way of paying them back. Now, understanding my feelings, they were getting angry at Kai on my behalf. They were such kind people, so why was Kai such a despicable man? It baffled me even now. Emily became a stay-at-home wife, just as you wanted. She even consulted us to try to make you happy despite your mistreatment. And yet, instead of appreciating her efforts, you cheated on her. My in-laws were nearly in tears from the disgrace. Watching them, my resentment towards Kai grew even more. Then, Kai, who had been slumped on the floor, slowly stood up. I hoped he might finally acknowledge his wrongdoings, but instead, he burst into laughter and started insulting me again. Well, now that it's out, I might as well say it. I married Emily because I wanted a maid who'd do everything I said. But after a while, I realized that just living with a shut-in who only does housework wouldn't increase my value. But Emily was doing all the housework so you could focus on your job outside. You're the one who wanted that. Yeah, and I'm saying it was a mistake. To achieve more, I needed connections. That's why I got involved with Mia, who excels in various fields. But you didn't need to cheat to achieve that. My in-laws, though appalled, still desperately wanted Kai to realize his mistake. You just don't get it. I gave Emily the divorce papers because I planned to marry Mia. With a competent woman as my partner, my standing in the company would improve. I wanted to show you that, but Emily didn't agree to the divorce, so I had to make her miserable. As I suspected, Kai had chosen me just to use me. I lost my parents when I was in elementary school. So, I became exceptionally skilled in housework. Kai had praised me for being domestic and wonderful. In contrast, Kai, who had healthy parents and lived at home, was completely inept at housework. When we got engaged, Kai had consulted me about this. I want to aim for a higher position at work for Emily's sake. I want to give her a better life. I want Emily to keep the house as a stay-at-home wife, Kai had said. At the time, I had little work experience, so I easily accepted his request, thinking it was what Kai wanted. I now realized how mistaken I had been. As I reflected, looking down, my mother-in-law slapped Kai again.
Kai, do you realize what you're saying? Emily worked hard to manage the house so you wouldn't be distracted by anything. You were able to focus on your job thanks to her. Instead of being grateful, you just make excuses.
But Kai just grinned and showed no intention of changing his mind. He even started to leave.
Hey, where do you think you're going? We're not done here.
This is just a hassle now. I'm leaving. I'll pay you any amount of money, but don't show up in front of me again, Emily. Kai spat out this parting shot, got into his car alone, and drove away. That guy is the worst. I've met all kinds of people, but I've never seen someone so awful. Why did I even get involved with him? I'm sorry, Emily. Even though I didn't know, I still had a relationship with your husband. I'm the worst. What are you talking about? Kai is the only one at fault here. You were deceived too, Mia. Seeing Mia and me talk, my in-laws quickly apologized to me as well. We should apologize too. We, as his parents, didn't realize Kai's true nature. If we had noticed earlier, maybe Emily wouldn't have been hurt.
We'll make sure Kai faces consequences.
I'll help with that. My in-laws and Mia promised to hold Kai accountable, but I smiled and replied,
It's okay. I've already taken care of it. What?
When I explained what I had done, the three of them widened their eyes in surprise. But then they sighed and said, he brought this on himself. A few days later. As expected, Kai called me repeatedly. It was just as I had imagined, endless calls. I didn't want to hear his voice, but I answered to deliver the final blow.
Hello, what's up?
I haven't received the affair damage payment yet, dear top employee. I said this sarcastically.
Help me! I can't deal with this right now. I just got fired from my job.
Kai was panting and panicking. Of course, I knew why he was in this situation.
Those jerks, my colleagues in the same department, they betrayed me. They're suing me.
Oh, poor thing. That's tough. I said, pretending to be sympathetic while urging him to continue.
I did so much for them. I gave them advice, bought them meals, took them out, and they betray me. I can't believe them.
Kai kept ranting about his coworkers, and it became unbearable to listen to. I was at my limit. Time to confront him with the truth.
No, that's not right. What? Listen, not one of your coworkers thought you were taking care of them. In fact, it was you who was being taken care of.
I spoke more forcefully than ever before. And the intensity made Kai fall silent.
None of your work achievements were really yours, were they? They all belonged to your subordinates, and you bullied them into stealing their credit? You said you were working overtime, but you were actually chatting with women, embezzling company funds, right? Your subordinates, who had their projects stolen by you, finally got the courage to report you. Who ratted me out? If you're mad about being reported, that means you knew what you were doing was wrong. Just admit it already, including the fact that you were making inappropriate advances on young female employees and involving them in your schemes.
Kai was still shaking. Probably not expecting me to know about his wrongdoings at work.
How do you know that? Did you call the company or something? No, I didn't call. But I knew you were hitting on girls at work long before I found out about Mia. One evening, I went shopping and happened to see you holding hands with a young girl heading downtown.
I said this while sending a photo to Kai's phone. He was speechless.
Your silence means you admit it. When I confronted that girl later, she was crying. She had been dating you, thinking you were single. At first, anyway.
But she eventually told me everything. That there were other girls you were messing with, and that you repeatedly stole your colleagues' credit. If you knew, why didn't you stop me sooner? Kai, after you started getting involved with people at work and with Mia, you completely avoided me, didn't you? When you finally came home, you didn't even say, "I'm home." You wouldn't respond when I asked you anything. I had given up on you listening to anything I said. That's when I started considering divorce. No, come on, I'm sorry for everything. Let's start over. One time, we were husband and wife, right? I realized that I really need you, Emily.
Weren't you the one who said you'd pay any amount of money? You're not in financial trouble, are you?
No, that's not it.
I can see right through you. Getting fired wasn't the end of it, was it? They found out about your fraud and demanded compensation. You're going to have to use up all your savings, aren't you?
I have no savings left because I spent it all on those girls. I thought I could rely on Mia's money.
I couldn't help but laugh, having moved past just being exasperated. What? After calling me a worthless bum who can't earn anything, you were planning to leech off Mia? You were ready to mooch off her, weren't you? How hilarious. Well, Mia's not around anymore, so good luck with that.
No, really, I'm sorry for everything. I can't find work, and I'm barely getting by with temporary jobs. Please, help me.
I already told you no.
Stop making a fool of yourself. You even betrayed the parents who raised you so well. There's no way I can forgive that. I have no obligation to stay with someone who can't even apologize properly. I'm sorry. I'll apologize to my parents too. I'll take care of you and my parents. I'll find a proper job. Please, I'm begging you. Let's start over.
He was so persistent that I decided to deliver the final blow.
Remember when you called me a worthless bum who can't live without you and your property? Well, now I understand that a wife isn't her husband's property. And I can live just fine without you. I'm making more money than you ever did and have my own place set up.
Leaving him with those words, I forcefully ended the call and blocked Kai's contact. Later, I heard about Kai through the grapevine. His misdeeds at his previous company had spread around town, and he was still struggling to find work. He couldn't get hired anywhere, not even for part-time jobs. So his only option was day labor, working like a horse from morning to night to pay off the damages to me. He tried to apologize to his parents and move in with them, but they shut him out, saying, "We no longer have a son." He's now living in a cramped, run-down apartment, barely scraping by. Meanwhile, I've been living comfortably in my new condo. It's spacious enough to have separate rooms for private use, work, and guests, which has boosted my work efficiency. My job is going well, and I'm earning over $10,000 a month now. Mia, who had been expanding her business from her base in California, is preparing for her dream of going international and has entrusted me with the business in the US. She even suggested I consider going independent, based on everything I've learned from her. Despite everything that happened, Mia and I have become like comrades. One day, my in-laws visited my condo.
Wow, what a splendid place.
Let's get straight to it. We want to apologize again for all the trouble Kai caused. As a final measure, we've disowned him.
If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. You'll always be my daughter.
Though my in-laws looked genuinely apologetic, I was deeply grateful to them.
No, I was really happy to have your support back then. I'd love to stay close with you from now on. And I need to become stronger too. I was always under Kai's thumb, never able to stand up to him. You're amazing, Emily. You're working and earning more than the average employee. You need to have confidence in yourself. Thank you. I'll keep trying my best.
Yes, even though it started as a form of revenge, working with Mia helped me realize what I was capable of. From now on, I'm not going to run away from myself. I'm determined to move forward and embrace